In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. The beginning is said to have been a void without space or form, which can both be personified by water. It was then stated that out of the maturity, a voice arose saying, "Let there be light," and there was light. And later onward, and there was earth created to form against the waters, separating the waters. Because we share the elements of the earth, we too can call ourselves earth. Greetings and welcome to yet another step in our journey towards becoming better versions of ourselves. This is the build. I now see that we have Brother Eli with us, and we will bring him in to share our beginning announcements. But before we do, I want to take the time to have us contemplate the recent disaster that has occurred over the last week. These past few days have been treacherous for some. Many different levels of pain, of despair has been brought forth to people, to families within this experience. Let us take a moment in memoriam for those lives that have been lost, but also coming back from that energy in gratefulness that we are still here. Thank you. We will now start with our announcements from Brother Eli.
Blessings, brothers and sisters, lovers of light and life, and lovers of truth and honesty, and forwardness, justice and justness. The words we are expressing freely are not meant to offend anyone. Our words are not meant to be in any competition with anyone else's wisdom. Your wisdom and understanding is yours alone. We are choosing to remain consecrated while being in the furnace of affliction. Blessings. Conquering ignorance is essential. Nobody is born wise. A person has to make serious efforts to develop the qualities needed to be able to speak and achieve mayat without falling into the twin traps of vanity and greed. Every day the ears or the living have to be made to listen to words of wisdom. The Egyptian sage portrays himself a vigilant heart, a plain tongue, capable of satisfying God and the gods because his or her entire existence rests on knowledge and not on belief. And in the ancient Kemetic book of two ways, the causes of wrongdoing are ignorance and immaturity. Blessings.
Thank you, Brother Eli. Today, we are going to dare the endeavor of unpacking yet another concept in this density of dimension for better understanding from a scholarly, intelligent, and mature perspective. A simple yet not so simple word: integrity. What is it that most people believe integrity is? While contemplating that, I will bring to the build the definition of integrity as provided by the Oxford Dictionary. Noun, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness, the state of being whole and undivided. However, therein lies a rub with which we'll continue to unpack further in regards to integrity and honesty. For honesty does not guarantee integrity, and vice versa, as proven in certain ancient texts in the Bible and in certain public accounts. But we will dig further into that together. Brother Eli, please share with us your thoughts on the word and its purpose.
Yes, sir, Brother Michael. Well, I myself, I am always going to point to something that is greater than myself, something that will live longer than I will ever live, even to the extent of my greatest imagination. Existence will live beyond that as well. I hope you understood what I just said. So, my point of view is for the present. It might not be for the future, for the most part, but some parts may be so. There are a difference between myth and history. Myth is something that continues with existence itself. History is that moment in time. For example, if I was born in the United States in 1776 and I decided to do 50 push-ups per day, within 6 months, I would be able to do more push ups compared to when I started. Also, I will have a little more strength. So let's fast forward from 1776 to 2022. If I went to that same location that is on the earth in 2022 and decided to 50 push-ups for the same amount of time, I, for the most part, will receive the same results. That is myth. History is, if I decide to do 100 push-ups on January 1st, 1776, I can never do 100 push-ups on January the 1st, 1776, if is January the 2nd. So history is something that happens in the annals of time compared to myth will exist. And that's why Jesus and the others gave parables, because parables will continue. From that foundation, I will go into integrity. Integrity, and let me just back up just a little bit, because some people will like to say, well, for me, integrity is this. I did not do that for a reason. Because just like myth is no respect of persons, it's a reality. It is. So, integrity is something that will exist with consciousness and the unconscious. We believe that plants and even some inanimate things may not be as conscious as humans. But I want you to think about this. If you decide to just walk outside and go to a university, not a college or a junior college, but a university, or if you go to somewhere that's been dealing with cultivation consistently for years, maybe 30, 40 to 100 years. If you use your physical eyes, you will see the trees look extremely healthy and vibrant when you go to these universities, or when you go to establishments that's been maintained consistently for at least 80 years. You can physically see it with your eyes. Now, go to neighborhoods that is not maintained. You can physically see worry and stress in the plant life. You can physically see it. If you go to a place where there's homelessness and people are doing drugs, you can physically see the environment respond to things that we would not consider that have levels of integrity. So integrity within itself, consistency. When you look at these and listen to these words like justice and justness, regal, um, providence, these words exist physically and spiritually because you can physically see the results. When you have someone who decides to brush their hair 30 to 50 strokes per night, you can see how beautiful it will look. So when we use these principles that we consider upright, that we consider regal. Even if you decide to take care of your shoes, take care of your hair, take care of your teeth, take care of your skin, take care of your car. When you respect things, there is a response and there is a return. There is a relationship. Now, I think Japanese or Chinese, I'm not for sure, for whoever take care of these bonsai trees. These bonsai trees take many years to cultivate. Many years. And when you look at these temples and these churches and these castles that was built hundreds of years ago, if you decide to go to the Vatican and other places, and you can go into these buildings that was not built with central air nor technology, craftsmanship, they continue to mop and clean the floors, they wipe everything down. It is immaculate, despite it being there for many, many years. So if they can keep things like that in that immaculate condition, if you will, think about your home. Think about your body. I am a person of truth. I love truth. I love talking about myself. I was a street young gentleman. I remember playing football. Again, I used this story before. When you're in the hood in the 70s and 80s, we had a fun relationship. Like, I will sometimes wear my friend tennis shoes, or he would, so we would just exchange things, even clothes as well. So back in the days, it was a normal thing to have athlete's feet. Your feet, you just got to scratch. So I was very ignorant. Approximately a year ago, I was having a conversation with someone, and they told me they actually go to the Chinese place to get their feet scrubbed. And I don't take anything for granted. So I said, oh, because I try to show people what I do and they just ignore it. So I do not exist that way. And it was strange when I got my feet scrubbed and they got into the nail bed and they got on the edges and all that type of stuff. I remember putting on my socks. My feet felt so amazing that I'm even speaking about it to this very day. I felt the arc in my foot, in my feet. I felt the skin on my socks. Even my walk was better. Now, mind you, I was a runner. And if you are a runner knows that you cannot wear your running shoes while you're working or doing other activities, because tennis shoes actually carry mileage. So you can also know that you can just damage a lot of the integrity of the shoe. So even I thought buying new tennis shoes, it did some changes that I truly appreciated at the time. But I didn't know, if you just take care of your feet, if you get that skin off, if you get in the bed of nails, if you honestly take care of your feet, show some integrity towards your feet, you will receive an amazing experience. So, Brother Mike, I will not go further than this point. So I hope you guys understand that simple layer that we're starting off, because this is the build and many layers to this. So that is my simple understanding at this very moment on some levels of human integrity.
Thank you, Brother Eli. There are many different takes on the word integrity. One of those sub definitions is something that maintains its shape. There is an irony within this, especially when it comes to us and our age in this skin and this composition, for it constantly changes. There are no 2 days where our bodies remain entirely the same. Depending upon the level of which you are observing, you will clearly see that you are always changing. It is the only thing that we can count on, is that the change is constant. However,
Brother Michael might be in a space again because weather is having its way. So I will go into the definition of integrity again. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness, the state of being whole and undivided, adherence to moral and ethical principles, soundness of character, honesty, the state of being whole, entire, or undiminished, a sound, unimpaired, or perfect condition. So that is the definition of integrity. Brother Mike, I see you're back, brother.
true example of integrity within this circle, within this very build. For we are maintaining the shape of the conversation despite obstacle, despite test. One of the other definitions of integrity is an upholding of honor and respect, a code that is followed. And here is integrity and honesty can sometimes collide. Have you ever heard of
Brother Mike is loading up again as we continue. The 5 attributes of integrity: dependability. Dependability means people can rely on you and that you keep your promises. Loyalty. Employers especially value and appreciate the loyalty of their employees. Honesty. Integrity requires honesty, good judgment, respect. These are some characteristics of people who have true integrity. They value other people's time. They give credit where it is due. They are authentic. They are always honest. They never take advantage of others. They do not argue over disagreements. They give most people the benefit of doubt. What is true integrity as a core value? The core values to integrity are honesty and trust.
I am experiencing obstacle, but we will maintain our shape and we will take our time. I will continue, even if it's slightly more expeditious, towards the main bottom line here. There is a such thing as being brutally honest in this society. And that is where the clash begins. For those who practice integrity, maintaining the shape, hold a sense of moral code for mutual respect from brother to brother, family member to family member, congregation to congregation, bond to bond, build to build. However, if I am a person who pledges honesty, I do not have to say I am pledging it with full integrity. There are other such terms that will allow honesty to have its way against integrity. Other terms, idioms of sorts within our lexicon. One, throwing someone under the bus. If you were to find someone who was to blame for something, and you were to assume integrity for the moral code of your brother, you would upheld certain information from certain parties out of respect for your brother, and your brother would see that as maintaining your bond's integrity. However, those who are brutally honest tend to throw their brother under the bus, tend to take the time to make edutainment out of the downfall of their brother, even at the cost of losing said brotherhood for sake of being honest. Even in the Bible, there are accounts where the enemy asked of civilians within a war where the opposing warriors were. And despite the fact that they knew exactly that they did not leave and knew exactly where they camped, they lied. Not in the pledge of honesty, but in the pledge of integrity for their camp. They lied and said they went ahead when they did not. They lied and said they knew not where they were or where they were going when they did. This is a protection for the brotherhood. This is integrity. However, integrity and honesty tends to be interchanged and intermingled without a second thought. This is proven to be a very dangerous thing. For some, honesty is the best policy, but if it, by that honest claim, by these honest words, you give the vulnerabilities of your brother to the enemy, if through this honesty you give the whereabouts of where you will be to a thief, if you give yourself in complete vulnerability to be dismantled, not only is that honesty the beginning of that downfall, but it also has you lose your shape. You lose your integrity. There is also many arguments upon biblical texts. If God itself gave a pass to Rahab and his lie in the Bible, to the women in Jericho when the enemy came forth asking the whereabouts of the soldiers that opposed them, and they lied, was it acceptable? Despite the fact that one of the 10 Commandments states that bearing a false witness is a sin. This is when things start to blur. And this is where we'll continue through the thread of this build.
Now, my point of view, let's go on to Brother Michael's example, dealing with humans and dealing with terms that humans make up that may not exist in the real world. Brotherhood. I was trying to look up Manly P. Hall's understanding on some secret societies and brotherhood. Galatians 1:10 and 12. The ancient writings are my foundations that I stand on. Am I now trying to win the approval of people or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be the Messiah's servant. What is a Messiah? A Messiah represents a lot of things. But let me go back into what Brother Michael was speaking on about that particular concept of brotherhood. There are many levels and many different types of brotherhood. There are foundations. I remember even certain dope dealers and panhandlers and these people, there were a code of conduct in their circles. You could not do certain things, and it was understood. Also, when it comes to heavenly things, if you were part of a brotherhood that lived on integrity and that lived for God or what you consider life, there will not be any worries within that circle. In the beginning, it was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word with God, and then it manifested into flesh. So if you was part of a certain type of brotherhood that represent true integrity, there are no such things as thrown under the bus because the brotherhood knows the destiny of the brotherhood. So sacrifice is prominent. So if you were in a situation in that particular type of brotherhood, the brother would not be offended if he made some mishaps or mistakes because he want to maintain the integrity of the organization that the brotherhood is representing, which starts off from a spiritual perspective before it is physical. There is no ego. It's only honesty and truth. So when we speaking of brotherhood, I look in the circles of God, not the circle of men, especially at my age. So if you was a part of a brotherhood, they say we want to accomplish this specific task 50 years from now, and that is our purpose. So we are not worried about today, next week, 25 years, 30 years. We are maintaining our integrity, which exists in existence, and it is in alignment with existence and the purpose of existence. Existence don't have time to say, I apologize for this asteroid hitting this planet and the planet blew up. Existence is going for a journey. Even even when you look at European soldiers, I'm talking in particularly the movies. I don't know the real life. The soldiers were marched in front of cannon fire and they would not stop because of the purpose. They continued on. One fell, just kept going. March, march. So before war started, they were trained on their purpose and the integrity of their purpose. So when you're dealing with certain circles, you come here to do something, to accomplish something. You don't have time to waste when you're a part of something that will love to be a part of existence itself and its endless momentum towards its destiny. So when you're dealing with a brotherhood of integrity, you have integrity even in your moments of silence, even in the quiet corner at night, 3 in the morning, even when you're walking somewhere at night because your car broke down and you walk through a land where prostitutes dwell. Your environment does not dictate your destiny and the integrity that you hold within. There was a movie that Eddie Murphy played, The Holy Man. And the holy man was just walking down the freeway before these TV folk found him. So these TV folk have their level of integrity, and the holy man had his level of integrity. So you had two people coexisting in one environment. So the holy man became very, very popular because of his products or because things that people were receiving from him. And then all of a sudden you had someone, of course, that were kind of envious and jealous of the success of this holy man. So, as these people do who lack good integrity, they have evil integrity, they maintain evil integrity. So, what they normally do is try to defame someone's character in the public. So, the evil one with evil integrity went to a woman that this holy one knew from the past. So, in between a show, this news broadcast came on and said, such and such, the woman was talking about what the holy man did while they were existing in secret. Kind of paraphrasing, you know me, it's some things that you definitely have to look up because I don't be on point because this is old information. But basically, she was saying some things that it was, I think, concerning children and some other things. So people was around, the cameraman, the camera people was around just listening to her say these words. So it got to the holy man. I think he was doing a live show. So the producer that came in, who dwells in the lane of bad integrity or evil integrity, is like, uh-oh, someone is saying this about you. Let's go and hide, because he dwell in that level of bad integrity. Holy man, however, lived in a different level of integrity. His integrity was uprightness, not on this level. So he was upright. So he said, who? We're talking. And he said, oh. So he ran, basically walked outside straight to the woman while she was being interviewed, saying these vicious things about the holy man live. So when she saw him looking at her while she was saying these things that have integrity from an evil perspective, she stopped speaking and she started telling the truth about the holy man and spoke about how he helped her, and then went to go hug the holy man. I don't know if she was in tears or not, but then she pointed to a man that was in the crowd and said, he paid me to say these things. And then the man looked around, as you know, and then ran off because his level of integrity taught him to run off after he'd been exposed, compared to the one whose integrity knew the truth. And then the one that was lying on the one that was dwelling in truth came to blows with his own truth of truth in the heart when she saw him physically. So the truth of truth supersede the funds that she were paid to lie on someone she haven't seen in years. So if you part of something who lack integrity at a high level, they will honestly remove themselves if they have integrity, because they are defaming the environment or the institution that they are representing, which profess high levels of integrity. So there is no such thing as throwing someone under the bus when you're in that type of environment, because they will throw themselves up under a bus and then will explain why they did the things they did on their own, which then had nothing to do with the brotherhood nor the individual who was in leadership of this brotherhood. So they have nothing to worry about, because everyone is existing on high level of integrity. There is no straddling the fence. So if you're a part of something that straddles the fence, then you will have these examples. It was one of the movies that I was totally in love with, and it makes me, even to this day, it just makes me cry. I think it's Les Miserables or something is French. It was a thief, and no one wanted to let this thief into his home, so it slept outside. So it went to this church And the priest helped the man. I think the man stole a piece of bread, just a small piece of bread. He had to spend almost a life in prison for stealing a small piece of bread. And this is a very, I'm going to watch it again. So the priest let him into his home with his wife. So the thief already had the the sticker on him, or identifier on him that he was a thief that was getting out of jail. So the priest let him in his home at night. So the priest was asleep, and then he heard some noise. So the priest got up and saw the gentleman stealing his silverware. So he punched the priest and knocked the priest out. He was an older man. So the scene blacked out. And then the next scene that popped up after the scene that blacked out, the man who stole the silverware was being forced and pushed by police officers to try to find out who owned the silverware that he stole. They didn't even know if he stole the silverware or not, but he was already marked as a thief. And so when you look at the scarlet letter, they marked you. So on a side note. So they finally made it to the priest's home. So the priest got a big old black eye, and his wife is there. So the police come with the thief, pulls the silverware out the bag and put it on the table. He said, "This is yours." And he looked at the guy, and the guy looked at him, and he was just like, he said, "Yes, this is my silverware." And then they showed the thief's face. He said, "However, this gentleman was trying to get a fresh start. So I gave him the silverware so he can start his life over because no one would let him in after becoming a thief." And then the scene went out, and I paused. I cried because they showed his wife there too. So after that, I'm even crying now. I cried. Woo. And he used that silverware to start a company. And he helped women who didn't have husbands because back then they didn't have employment for women. So he created a company to support women. This is an amazing story, not to go too long, but that part I would just like to share. And again, levels of integrity to me and in certain organizations in heaven on earth are maintained by its level of understanding of what the establishment or the founding fathers and mothers created for a specific organization.
That was excellent. That was excellent response. It was the response that I must admit I was hoping for, to correct certain instances that I have found myself to be at an impasse in my past. Certain brotherhoods that I had thought I was a member of. And for sake of their level of integrity, I would hold in certain truths, would not throw a person under the bus, would claim the faults as my own rather than point the finger at the perpetrator, thus compromising my honesty. And it has its rewards that I still endure. So then comes the even deeper question. For one that does hold the high level of integrity, Wherein are their reward? This was a question that was brought forth in our conversation, Brother Eli, on Friday, of the instance of the man or woman who upholds the upright, who continues to not compromise its form or shape in its integrity, in its honesty and truth, lives in it, dwells in it, and yet has yet to receive their reward. The question of the rewards having to only be after we die. However, we know that we read that it says on earth as it is in heaven. To give us this day our daily bread. Where are the rewards for those with high integrity? My response was simply from a place of gratefulness as a scapegoat to cover lack, that as long as they have that daily bread, they are given their reward. However, when we speak about craftsmanship, when we mesh in the inanimate with the animated, with the personified in its creations of great artistry with full integrity. And it is a wish, a want, an inquiry, a goal, a blueprint to ascertain certain rewards of high integrity, high quality craftsmanship, high quality, elegant artifacts as a means to show an example that this too can be a reward for exemplifying high integrity and honesty. Yet, it is seen as close to null and void compared to the ill-gotten gains that mankind has shown itself to manifest at a price of hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of dollars in currency, which would allow them to perform acts of purchase, the likes of which the righteous man has only seen in publications to exemplify those who are able to afford such reward. It is tragically unfair and unfitting for a man who creates, who crafts in full integrity, in full honesty, for those who are of the same, who he or she truly believes deserves it, only for that to be cheated out of his fellow man by someone who has riches of monetary value, but not of spiritual or even a metaphysical one. What is the answer for that? It is not a simple answer, but it took time for me to dig deep into this question. And here is the answer. Unfortunately, it must be a shared destiny, a shared dynasty. And there is still power in numbers, which comes back to the righteous brotherhood, which is something that I left out on purpose, for which I knew I could depend upon the build to find that void and bring light to it. This is ironing, sharpening iron here. That in numbers, there are families with all integrity of different ethnic backgrounds who can come from where they are born to this country, can bring themselves to house themselves at 5 to 10 family members at a time, and take the time with their integral work and their honest living to take turns blessing each other in that way. There are many examples of this on this planet. You can take almost every ethnic group besides the African American culture, unfortunately, and find examples there. We can take the Latin culture and see it. We can take the Asian culture and see it the same. There is a reason why we have Chinatowns, Mexican towns, but no African American town. That is the unfortunate truth. These power in numbers examples will continue to exemplify themselves in such a monetary means. The immature one would bring forth jealousy from their character. How is it that these 10 Latin American individuals who come up with a single car dealership can all have Class A, S-class automobiles in their garages? How is it that these Asian cultures who can come up with various restaurants displaying their cuisine ascertain such an astronomical amount of funds that it is but a sneeze away from purchasing a house for a loved one who has worked hard all year, of which the other 5 or 8 or 9 individuals will take all of their funds together and bless the one to wait their turn. If you are listening to this today, I implore you to take a look upon the culture that is representative of you. And if you cannot find in that culture a brotherhood such as the one that I speak, though we have a moral code, you may join ours in the power of numbers so that we as a group, as a true and high integrity brotherhood, sisterhood, familyship, can do the same that these other cultures have. By their blueprint, we can carbon copy such acts and receive our rewards. But if and only if all members within the numbers maintain that high integrity, maintain that high sense of truth and fact and reason. It is a tall order. I do understand that greatly. But it's an order nonetheless that I choose to place into the universe, for we do not know who will watch this and take heed or even be inspired to become one of those numbers. To be encouraged, for if we can only build one brick at a time, us two, I and Brother Eli, and yet within weeks, months, or even years' time, there's 100 brick builders here. We can build our houses of providence much more expeditiously. If only 1% of this planet could be that group in a place of over 8 billion people. I'm going to show you an example of power here. What is 1% of 8 billion people? 1% of 8 billion people is 80 million people. If 80 million people gave a single dollar and placed it in a single account, and we did that, one person every day would be $80 million richer. Now, that's only if it was $1. But what if it was more than that? Power of numbers is what I'm speaking about. In full integrity, without it being a lottery, but a guarantee that those in high order, those who have shown that highest exemplification of integrity, were rewarded. I can almost guarantee you that that one person would want to give most of that back out of feeling blessed to be able to do so, for it has proven itself in many existences that it is better to give than it is to receive. For if we are all giving, we are all receiving just the same. Now, that's just monetary. What if you do not have a currency, but you have a craft and you can build? We would have our community. We'd have a commune. We'd have a place on a hill with rules that only we would delegate, for we would need no help. A full pledge of honesty and truth. Now, this sounds quite utopian, doesn't it? This sounds quite the pipe dream, doesn't it? But might I remind you that there are many subcultures that might not be 80 million, that are 0.00001%. How about 80 people? If you know how much power can come from that, then you understand that this is no pipe dream that I am bringing to you today, my brothers and sisters. This is a blueprint to ensure the guarantee that those in high integrity deserve. If I was in a church right now, I would be told by the elders a nod for a collection plate to be passed across and to ask if there was one. But I will not do that today. What I will do is to maintain this shape in every conversation that is shared here on the bill with full integrity, to even encourage the challenging of these ideals so that we all can become a greater people. Because I, Eli, and all of you who are watching in that high order, in that full integrity, truly deserve it. By our works and our steadfastness, may we be rewarded by our own hand, not by prayer, not by lottery, not by gamble, but by the guarantees that we are due.
I was just going over your words, brother. I don't have much more to say at this moment, but I would like to reiterate, whenever you are trying to accomplish something, make sure you find that no one from the past have not already accomplished that tasks before. And if they have completed that task, you can use their techniques and you can modify it according to the present time. When I was younger, I was around some gypsies. It's around a lot of people from other countries. I was sitting in the Indian store in the back of the Indian store. And I was with this gypsy, and he found that someone was getting married. Someone from their gypsy community was getting married. I remember watching him pick up his phone, and it was not a cell phone. He called multiple gypsies who were living in the United States and who was living in other countries. And he told me after the fact, it's approximately 35,000 of them. And during this call, he told them who was getting married. And in their culture, they give $5 a piece to this new married couple to get them started off. So as you know, if you work together, that you can accomplish something. Some of you guys may not know some of the origins of Jewish and other culture marriage. So I will explain this. When you're first married, for the first year, the married couple must move away by themselves, and they just sit together and deal with each other for that first year. They don't even go to work. So in that first year, they have to get out all the bumps and the crevices, and they have to deal with themselves for that first year before they come back to the community. All the likes and dislikes, the hates and things of that nature. So there are many layers when it comes to companionship. There are many layers that come with anything in life. And that is why those who are qualified are the individuals who have fully vetted situations are successful compared to those who just haphazardly do things. Another prominent thing when it comes to very serious brotherhood. Let's use the Amish. I literally watched the Amish pick up a huge building and the men carried it down the street. And I remember when I was younger, I thought they didn't use technology and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm older. Now I understand the principles that there are existing in. So there are many examples of individuals who attempt to do certain things. And mind you, all of these great lavish inventions came from priests and monks in churches. So all the things Brother Michael was talking about came from those who will do diligent with their minds in nature. And the ones who had a lot of time were the intelligent ones compared to the ones that did a lot of physical labor. So a means to an end influences the end result. And also the desired end will influence the means to it. And I'm about to answer Brother Mike because he made a statement last build. He said Brother Eli basically read all his nearly 800 books. I did not get the opportunity to respond to that, so I will respond to it at this very moment. When I was younger, they had worries when it came to the climate. In the past, the Americans had these outhouses that were placed near the house with two flipping doors. So if there's a tornado, they knew how to run down in these little basement things. So when I was around some brothers in the serious brotherhood, they say the reason why you should get you some books is because one reason is if the electricity go out or power go down, you will have something to do to keep your mind busy by reading. And the other examples I can give in 1 second. I have to take this call.
Okay. And speaking about those publications, those books that stand behind Brother Eli, you must understand that this is talking about an existence that has almost lasted 50 years. And in that time, it is pretty easy if you are steadfast, if you are to remain in the same shape, easy to read that many publications in a 50-year time frame. Let me reiterate. There were book clubs, scholastic books, is one that I remember when I was a child. And you were given the goal to read a book a month. One book a month. Now, those publications were smaller, however, we were also smaller. We read at a more rapid rate. We are well engined and oiled. As that mechanism continues to manifest that strength, we become easier to obtain our comprehension. Our vocabulary, our vernacular becomes much more articulate, thus making it much easier to obtain the knowledge written in a book. We can read a book a month easily if given that time. So let's go ahead and multiply the months to the years. Let's give or take 5 years before Brother Eli began to read his first book. And that book may have only been maybe 10 to 20 pages. See Dick Run, see Jane Hyde. It is a book. And over time, we went from that to Cat in a Hat to Kill a Mockingbird to Manly P. Hall's publications to books on law or physics or mathematics or science or even, oh yes, great poetry within that particular book. These all enhance the mind and creates a bigger field of view for our imagination to continue to know what can be created and then manifest that much greater. It is easy. I challenge those who are listening within the next 4 weeks, does not matter the size of publication, to read a book. I'm so glad that Brother Eli spoke about this during storm. The reason why we are having the difficulties technically in the beginning of the build was because I endured Hurricane Ian's aftermath from Florida up through the Carolinas, resulting in a power outage that left me for 27 hours without lights, without any electricity, and not even good quality of water. To which I use that very tactic in order to tide the time. Reading is fundamental. And I believe that those who do more of those readings versus simply Googling something, versus simply listening to an audio book, but literally taking the intent in their brain to comprehend the word. It is just as spiritual and metaphysical as it is physical to read and understand the word. I'll bring back to Eli.
Blessings. So that part was one of the first phases because the founder took a picture of him reading a book. Many times I posted on Facebook when I would go to these library events where they were selling books for an extremely discounted price. I posted in 2018 when I purchased 100 books from that library event. When you have access to information, you can use things as a reference. Like, I remember speaking about learning about wild herbs in people's backyards and other places. I remember telling people that you can purchase a book like that for $2. So you can have the knowledge to know what to eat to heal yourself, because when we watch animals, as soon as they are sick, they will go to the backyard and eat the wild herbs. It was a gentleman who was on a very high, sophisticated way of life. I want to say diet. I remember he was being interviewed by this restaurant owner. And before the interview started, the gentleman looked at the wild weeds growing around his restaurant and simply explained the illnesses that the owner was dealing with. So I will purchase books like that, not necessarily reading them today, but I have access to them when I need to know what plants and things look like. So when you have a library, that is an investment that you can use today, tomorrow, or some other time. When we come from that perspective of investing into things such as literature, just being around literature, the energy, the smell of books, there are serious effects. I mean, things happen. Just for example, I watch people who went to clubs and they start showing signs of being high and drunk despite them never consuming such things that night. The environment alone produced a reality for the individual. So there are many things that you can have to build your self-esteem when you may not have self-esteem. Anyone who knows anyone, when you walk into someone's home and see a library, it's impressive. Just like when you go into someone's home in the 80s and you saw a pool table in the basement and a bar, that representing something, and the person may not have never had played pool on that table. Symbols. There are things that your body can make certain changes just by seeing them or being around it. Some say that 90% of communication is nonverbal. So even walking into a room every day full of books compared to full of video games or full of food or full of TV or full of drugs, it produces a response. It demands a response. There are many times that you can just read some chapters in certain books, and then you have to put it down because you using the book as a reference. My laptop is standing on a dictionary that is approximately, I would say, 6 inches in height, the width of it. I guarantee I didn't read every word of the book in this dictionary. I have multiple dictionaries. I have many things that I guaranteed I have not read every page. This is an example. This book, if you see how large it is compared to my head, it's a very serious book, a very beautiful information. The pictures alone in this particular book I enjoy. I did not get the chance to read the entire book at this moment. So I purchased the book for about $2 to $3 at one of these sales. And there are some beautiful things in this particular book that you cannot find on the internet. This book is so huge. So I can use this book as a reference to lead me to other books for more detailed research. So there are many things we can accomplish by having a library in our home compared to having other things in our home. And I think it is very important for Black people specifically to have a library because we were not allowed to read. And they said, if you want to hide something from a Negro, just put it in a book. So that is a short version of how I accumulated such books. On the flip side, my family is something about my family from my father's side. I met my cousin in my early 40s who I've never met before my entire life. He was moving from Ohio to Georgia, and they told me that he was moving there. Now, I've never met the gentleman. He's in his 50s. When he arrived at his location, he opened the doors of the U-Haul truck, and there were hundreds of books. So it's obvious that it's not necessarily me, that seemed a part of my family. So I was responding to a unconscious event, just like people respond to other things. So I love watching people on YouTube a part of book clubs and the energy going to Barnes and Noble. Like I take the two young gentlemen to Barnes and Noble, just going there and smelling the coffee and just seeing the culture of those who love books. I love the culture of those who are readers. I love their personalities. I love the things they represent. I love their quirkiness, even their style of clothing. I love those, like I appreciate Brother Michael diction of English, how he can articulate himself. And the reason why I cannot articulate myself like I did in the past, first of all, I moved to the South. The South is not like the North. They just speak any old way and they can be a CEO. That was number one. I was around people who were sophisticated, but their words were not as sophisticated as their writing. Part two, I had this night job that I was around like lawyers and other people. And at the time at my one post, I just start studying English. English have over 300,000 words. So I was studying words like precipitously and vicissitude and just all type of words. And I was very crafty with these words. And I remember how these lawyers and these so-called sophisticated people who did not really know English at all, because the average person used the same words over and over and over again. So I was the one with low pay and a simple level of employment while they were sophisticated and had high pay. So that kind of just threw me for a loop at the moment. Says there is no need to go on with this particular craft. So dealing with other situations, I really declined, and it takes practice. But words, English words, are beautiful. When I was learning Arabic, when I was learning Hebrew, when I was learning all other languages, I remember knowing the introductions and departures from like 7 or 8 languages. And I remember watching people who really appreciated that. I even knew that had some knowledge of that, because Americans are arrogant. You need to know English only. So me even knowing a few words in multiple languages, German, other stuff, it opened doors, especially being a black person in the United States. So you know that. So words is a science. Literature is a science. Reading is a science. And it's just not all verbal. Like I was saying, like going to Barnes and Noble, going to bookstores and having book clubs, and just being around the energy of those people, compared to people who go to the bar and fart and fight and all that kind of crazy stuff. They go to different places. The energy is different. I love quirky, nerdy energy. And that's why I love wearing my thick glasses. So that is a few answers to the question of, have I read all of my books? And that's why the answer I gave was so on point, because just like a movie, you will get to learn the culture of a thing. And most books are written to solve human problems. And human problems are the same as they were in the past. So there is a reiteration when it comes to literature. And you can read literature that came into formation from different countries in different time periods, notwithstanding the point that they're speaking on the same subjects. So maybe I will work on my English as the level that I previously were on, and I can guarantee you will not know one word I am saying, because when I get involved in something, I am in it. So being simple can be honorable at times. For example, when I was in Arizona, I was wanting to learn Spanish. I did not know that at the point I was offending people, because I was learning how to speak proper Spanish, while the natives did not speak proper Spanish. I said, oh, I am not trying to offend the people I'm trying to get closer to. So I had to cut that off, because it's this many levels to all things, especially literature. Also, speaking about Spanish people, or Mexicans, as some people like to say, those Mexicans who could speak English love to abuse those who cannot speak English. There are advantages. So that's my little spiel, Brother Michael, to the statement that you made last week when it concerns to my literature that God blessed me with.
We will come to a close of the official part of the build. We will do so ceremonially, as we will continue to maintain its shape in this circle. Of all of the elements, us being the earth, we must always remember that we are this. We are the light, for the candle cannot complain against the harshness and the darkness. It instead emits itself, then admits to itself that it is everything that we needed. It is the light, and we are that light. We will not blow this candle away from us. Instead, we will take it in, knowing where it came from, the source for which we come forth. And so we take it in together. And to show and prove on one accord, we will show that we are not harmed. Many multitudes of blessings to all who have heard this message thus far. And now, without a break, without a separation of the videos, we're going to go into our after party of sorts, our encore, where we get to kind of let ourselves hang out and speak more. If you choose to continue watching, absolutely do so.
I need to run and turn on the night lights for outside. I'll be right back, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. While he is going to place on the nightlight here, I am going to take the time to show you a part of the garment, the likes of which you have not seen before now. A certain ceremony that is most of the time kept in silent. It is simple. It is taking off the stole and the veneration of it by a simple kiss across the top, wherein the space between your brain, the bottom of your brain, and the top of your back meet. For that space is the smallest distance that can be made between your physical body and your mind. I now bring to myself more of myself and less of thyself, so that I can come unto the accord of my brotherhood as a brother. This cloth was my second homemade, handcrafted stole. It has hieroglyphics and Phoenician characters across it all. And it says, teacher, holy person, honest person, and not separate from spirit. These are the inscriptions that are placed upon the stole. As I remove the stole, and now we go into our after hours. Give me just a moment here. I'm going to make a small change.
I think you're on mute, Mike. I think you're on mute. I think you're on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me now, brother?
Yes.
Good. Very good. Well, when talking about books, I've always been amazed at a person who has that library within their house. But there are a couple of other items that reminds me too, that I was always amazed about, and not many instances where seen them. One, of course, is certain musical instruments. Now,
Mm.
I knew a friend of mine whose father owned a grand piano.
Ooh.
I am telling you, it was spotless. It was absolutely spotless. It was an old Steinway and Sons grand piano. And it was opened up, and you could see all of the intricacies within it. And I can tell you, when I asked him about his father if he played, he honestly said he did not. He played maybe a handful of chords and then said, "Yes, I want this in my home. I'll
Mhm.
wrap it up. I want it. I want it delivered. I want it there." And to which the person that was selling it was wondering if he would ever play. And his answer was interesting. He said, "Though I won't be a person that really plays on it, I just want to be able to every once in a while just hit one note and just hear the clarity in that note." He said that. And this was way back in, oh my gosh, it was like 1992. And I thought that was so peculiar that you went and you bought in 1992 a piano that cost $4,000 to $5,000 to never play it. But it made more sense as I got older when it came to the idea of knowing that something being in your environment gives that same type of effect to the psyche. You collect something from it. And yeah, I would every once in a while, up until 1999, I was friends with this brother, and his father would just he would hit this one note every once in a while, just hit the one note. There was one chord, and just sit there and listen to it. I didn't know then about vibrations, about what these notes on the scale actually did to the body, and how that reads and speeds to the mind. I didn't know any of those intricacies. All I knew was he just loved that one note or that one chord. But that's one of the things I remember back in the day, brother. Um, as far as books too, it's always been said that when books have been adapted into films, the book will always trump the film. The book always was better
Good
than
point.
it was made visual by somebody else's mind. I always thought that was amazing too.
You know, I want to think about. I'm kind of hearing an echo. It's like a robot echo. Rawr.
I'll try to.
Like Optimus Prime. um, one thing, one thing that Jay-Z and Beyonce, they made a video as they triumphant. I think they done something important. And ironically, they chose this museum with statues there. I have yet to see anyone create those statues, but the prestige of being around those statues, they actually built the building for the statues. When everybody go to Egypt or to Kemet, there are inscriptions on the wall. People may not be able to read them. Having said that, we see a lot of people are inspired to know what they're talking about, thus creating a um, a concept of consciousness. Let's use this as an example. You can sell a home and you can put it on the market, and then you can invite people who may want to purchase the home. Everyone who is anyone in any country will tell you if they walk into a home that only had one of those grand pianos and an extensive library in it, that it will raise the cost or the prestige of that home compared to being empty. So if we add a stack of books, of quality books, I remember I was doing this job across the street from Magic Johnson's Burger King in Buckhead, Georgia. And they was building these very expensive condos, up in the millions. And I remember I was doing other security work. I remember I was allowed to go into these homes, and the quality of these homes were amazing. But for the first time in my life, I was around these homes that have libraries. They have multiple books. And brother, each book was made out of extremely soft leather. I have never experienced that. So each book I picked up, even before you touched the book, you saw it was quality. Then after you picked the book up and felt how soft the leather was, it was like a spongy, soft, warm leather on each book. So you had to open up the book in order to see what the book was talking about, the title. So again, even just being around that, it creates a force. When you look at things that you may not partake in or may not even understand, it still demands your respect. So we have this empty facility with this grand piano in it, this extensive library in it. Next, we're going to add a painting. We may not be a painter. We may not even know anything about this particular art piece, but we just spent $4 million on it and we put it up. And those who know, when they walk in and say, "Oh, this is such and such." So despite knowing or having any involvement in it, it brings a type of energy to it that I think is amazing. Very amazing, brother.
I remember that there's a certain word that is for the chemical reaction that happens with the collection of pages and books. The name of the word is called linen. Lignin, linen. It literally is how the books, when they are collected together, they form a chemical reaction that smells like a hint of charcoal smoke and vanilla.
Wow.
Vanilla is a calming agent that can be used in meditation.
With the
So that
candle.
makes perfect sense that the collection of books brings a certain vibe to
Wow.
people. I don't think I've ever gone to a Barnes and Noble and seen an angry reader. I don't think I've ever gone to a library and seen anyone who was gruntled, had a certain facial expression while reading or searching for a book. They always had a sense of peace and albeit even joy when they found the book that they were searching for. And it was because, in addition to that feeling, there is an actual scientific chemical reaction that happens when the combination of all of that knowledge gets compressed together in small spaces that we can take in and smell. When we smell things, it goes directly straight to our brain. It goes there first. If you ever heard of the saying, "I smell so good I can almost taste it," I think that knowledge is more than just something that can be read about or something that can be done with our hands. It's something that can be done with all of our senses. That we can indeed have all of our senses entwined into it. And I think that that's the reason why
books and those particular publications are always better of an experience than anything that we can ever see on a green screen film, because it involves all of our senses intrinsically. It's all done simultaneously. It's not without, any limitation to that, except for the mind of the person that's reading and not comprehending, which is the reason why you have to continue to oil that machine to continue to comprehend better. It becomes that much more vivid. I think, I imagine this, when looking at your background, brother Eli, that there's got to be a day where you walk in there and you'll just pick a book and you might just read, just not even a chapter, maybe even a
Right.
paragraph,
Yeah.
and put it aside and know that that is something that is obtained. And somewhere in the mainframe here, it will trigger when certain things are uttered, when certain communication is made, and you'll be able to make that connection with people. That's just amazing to me.
That's so powerful you say that, because look at people when they recite the entire Quran, the recitation.
Yes.
That book is over 1,400 years old, and they say the same words.
Yes.
And you open it up. I remember that they said you can, when you have a Quran, I just use this book. You kiss it, put it on your forehead, kiss it, put it on your forehead, and you just open it up and you start reading. That so despite you not reading the entire book, we know that, I would say, me personally, that you will find, or you will be, for some reason, go to a scripture that may answer a question that you are asking God about. And I remember when I discovered Lectio Divina. I remember when I discovered that. Praying with the scriptures. So literature alone, not to just weigh on one subject, because we got even talk about the brotherhood, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about. But some people, like, I remember I went to some people's homes and they don't consume alcohol, but they have wine and champagne. So when their family members come over, who are those who like to consume that beverage, they can be hospitable to them, even though they don't drink it themselves. Even those who collect things. You got a gentleman who's on Instagram. He collect books, and these are the books that you can't open up or you destroy them. So he's a book collector. So there are many things that, reason why individuals who could have books specifically, or just anything in life like sculptures and things of that nature, because we already know that people go to museums to look at ancient pyramids, ancient Egyptian sculptures, even though the people, they can't even explain it. But everybody that appears to my consciousness when they go into the pyramids and they go on the inside, it does something to them physically, spiritually, psychologically. They come back different. So I think having or being around something can actually affect us in positive levels. What's going on with this throwing under the bus? I'm just curious about that part. You said throwing under the bus. I want to speak about levels of communities or commune.
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept of being, thrown under bus, that's happened a few times in my life, where a certain task was supposed to be completed. Me being a person who was not as proficient as I might have thought to complete said task, made certain mistakes, and was told by people who were more proficient, oh, we'll fix it afterwards. They won't see the mistakes that you made. We'll fix it afterwards, and nothing will be said. And then when confronted, it was him. It was that guy. He messed that up. So you need to put all of the blame on that guy. And they were being honest that it was indeed my mistake. However, the illusion of brotherhood said that don't worry about it. We'll take care of it in secret and maintain the fact that we had certain type of brotherhood. We had a certain integrity that I
Well,
would
that's
not be.
integrity, brother, because the person says, yes, Mike is responsible for that. But I told him that you see, if they'd told the full truth,
Right.
you know what I mean? If they'd have told the complete story, not just one half of the story, because they the one came out who were more proficient in that particular concept. They said, well, Brother Mike, he did make some mistakes, but I encouraged him to move on because I told him that it will be completed later. You see what I'm saying? So the full truth. So they told the truth, but the complete truth would have made everybody feel more whole in that specific example right there. That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's happened on a number of occasions, a few occasions in my life, and that had me indeed question, brotherhood and what people meant when they said that, even certain individuals, I would not even allow them to call me their brother because I knew that they did not have a certain level of integrity. Now, just as well as I do that one of the highest titles that you could ever give
Yep.
is brother.
That's right.
That's more than reverend, preacher. No, brother, brethren, the highest. And I take that very, very seriously. Who calls me brother? Because I've been subject to test that. If we're really brothers and I need your help, will you be able to help me truly? Or are you just going to, sending prayers in the air for you, that type of brother? Because there's certain occasions where I've been called a brother and have been able to assist in the aid of said brother. And as long as it was convenient for the other side, it was fine.
Yeah.
But that's the other part of it too, reciprocation.
Reciprocity.
Without doing the tit for tat, right? We're not saying, I helped you. Okay, I got you going to get me next time. It's not like that. No. But just to know that there's a mutuality that exists and have that under the guise of illusion for certain people. It was very hurting for me to deal with. And of course, this is before I realized that the world does not work in that personal realm. Things that happen in existence is nothing personal. But as a person who did not realize that, I thought of everything, took everything highly personal.
You have to ask the question. You have to ask the question, why? And why does it exist? Like I remember, I tell the young gentleman I do cry. Even the one saw me cry. I was we have to ask the question, why existence created tear ducts. Who and when you look at the people who started men don't cry concept, they cried. They were not honest. They had this image that they had. They didn't discover who created the concept of the image that they were representing, despite they don't know where it came from, but they were just holding up something. They don't even know the purpose of it. Like when you play sports, walk it off. Doesn't make sense. You're gonna need your knees when you're older. No, don't walk it off. Let's tend to it. So you will pay for the lack of true integrity, because that's where pain come from. It tells you a warning to stop. Existence didn't create pain in the physical body just to walk it off. No. And even those who do martial arts in temples, they start off with children at 5 years old. So of course, by the time they're in their 30s, been hitting their neck, you know, for 30 years every day for hours, they can break stuff because they build it up, the resistance. So, and that's why when we come with communities, there were social norms. And since we don't are not in a real community, I'm gonna talk about you personally. So your sensitivity came from existence itself. However, it was in an environment that was uneducated nor qualified to maintain what existence put in you. The example I would like to use is a small village. When most people are born into small village who maintain their cultures for thousands of years, first of all, there is a genetic understanding that the child will come into via the mother's womb, which is nonverbal. That is why you look at certain babies who live in Africa where they don't have hospitals nor air conditionings and things of that nature, and their baby be right on their back while they're having boxes and jars of water on their head walking in the desert. So you have that part that is established, a consistency of culture, because human beings, we are creatures of habit. So you didn't have that. Another thing that you did not have, when you in certain cultures growing up as a young child in this consistent culture where these folk ways and mores were understood genetically because it exists for thousands of years, environmentally it existed for thousands of years. So if you grew up in that type of establishment, these individuals knew your mother, mother's mother, father, father's father, and their behaviors and their likes and dislikes. So when you are born, you come with a code that has already been documented and recognized by the elders. So your natural responses would not be something of a shock and awe to those who knew your great great grandfather, who behaved the same way when he was born or as a young child. Through this knowledge, they would know how to cultivate you specifically for your genetic code and who and what you are historically, while you are developing presently, going toward your destiny spiritually, emotionally, and genetically. That is why people who relatives were alcoholics can consume alcohol more than those who relatives who are not alcoholics. There is a genetic memory, there's a genetic code that travels with us. So you are not allowed to enjoy that. You are not allowed to enjoy a culture of men who you didn't necessarily know your father as an individual, because every man in the village was your uncle. Everyone was your father. Those things are lost. So a lot of things that existence create it through the annals of time, we violate because we're not in a culture that cultivates natural existence, natural behaviors. Like when you see a plant or a weed grow in its natural environment, you don't have to water it. It grows and it stays even during the summer. But if you got something that you have to plant that does not belong there originally, you have to do a lot of work in order to maintain it existence. So we are suffering from a lot of things, brother, that belongs there, and we violate that Therefore, we suffer. We have these scars and marks, and then that produces, that will produce an emotional trigger. And these emotional triggers are very serious. So, yes, sir, just that hopefully we can create certain circles that we maintain the lineage of individuals who might not be our biological family. However, we've been living together, that we know that we know. Well, everybody knows your name. Doom, 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 doom. And they glad that we came or something like that. Cheers. But yes, sir.
They're always glad you came. Yep, that's right. You want to go somewhere where all the troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. I remember that. I remember that. Cheers, man. Oh man. Hmm. I remember living in a place where I felt like everybody knew my name because the town was so small. I lived in Atmore, Alabama, and it only had 5 main streets. The one main street that went straight through, and everything else was in a circle. And you knew what was on sale because everybody had it. If there was a shirt, that was certain shirt that was on sale, everybody knew you went to the department store, you got the same shirt, same week. I worked in the department store, so I knew everybody else buying a shirt. That whole thing. I'm not sure if I spoke about the one hot dog block party. So disclaimer, this was before I realized what I was doing to my body when I was consuming swine. But I had a taste for a hot dog. And I had a taste for a single hot dog, but I didn't want it to be like cooked and boiled inside of my home. No, I wanted the smoke, the mesquite, and all of that. So, what did I do? 21 years old, I'm in Atmore, Alabama. I go to my grill. I put charcoal in the grill. I learned from my mother and my father, you cook your smoke. So you put onions, you chop the onions, and you let that be in the fire, and it's all billowing up just for this one hot dog. As I am about to go in the house to put this one hot dog in, a neighbor says, "Man, what you got going over there? I'm smelling some onions and some garlic, and you barbecuing? Do you know what happens in this hood when you barbecuing? If you barbecuing, we barbecuing. A fire is a public fire." So then he says, "I have beef. Now, ground beef, I am going to make some ground beef patties." Okay. Then he calls another neighbor from another street who walks over and brings ketchup, mustard, relish, some little secret sauce that she makes, and hamburger buns. This continues over the course of 2 hours. And by the end of the day, the street was blocked off by cars in the middle of the street. And we had 8 barbecue grills going, and everybody, you would have thought it was planned. With this whole block, it had to be at least 45 people. And we all eating, and we're all having, that's community, man. That is the one instance I could say that I had experienced community. We talked about the power in numbers earlier in the bill with that $1 and 80 million people. That was only 45 people. I had a whole feast from a single hot dog because it was power in numbers getting together with the integrity of saying we all are going to eat. We all did. But that sense of community, my question is the internet a hindrance towards that community, or is that a tool that could be harnessed to build a greater community in this way, to feel that way? And if so, who's doing it right? Who's creating that much of a community where everyone who's connected together truly feels connected? They're not just fans watching as someone else is performing something, but they're all parts of this well-oiled machine that's going towards this destiny that we speak about. I wonder if there are any examples or anyone that just comes remotely close to that sense of community, because with technology, you would think it would be that much easier for it to be possible. But I guess the balance, the teeter-totter of this whole thing is the more that technology becomes greater, the lighter, the lesser of the density of humanity happens. I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
Well, what I think is, let's look at it. Let's look at it for what it is. You talking about a town and peoples who are connected to the land. Because when you own land, there's literally relationship. So I don't know what it is, but so also when you have people that cultivate this particular land, because everything is conscious, the internet does not supply that. You have to remember technology is a piece of a thing. So it's not true community as if you were in the what is it? You know what I
In
can't
in
say.
the proximity, yes.
Proximity of other individuals um who being is connected to the land. And that's why I love simple living. Mind you, if I was younger, I was like, oh man, they cooking pork and all that kind of stuff. But at this age, while I'm fasting, I actually do not think a long life is as important as I did when I was younger. Because I love to contemplate and I love to analyze where my consciousness is. Um, and I think simple living and the example that you gave to me is beautiful because we are not designed to work like we do. A false entity brought this concept into existence. Work. Work is a violation of existence itself. We are here to do, but not work. So listening to your town, which is only 3 hours away from where I live at right now at this very moment, at Moore is only 3 hours away, southwest from where I'm speaking at right now. That simple living, that community living, there is multiple layers that you're dealing with. Everybody on the planet knows when you meet somebody that you discover from the internet is a different experience when you actually physically are in their presence. Let's use that for an example. I actually remember this one sister that I met. I was in Whole Foods and she was in Whole Foods and we was MySpace friends and Facebook friends. I remember seeing her, she remembers seeing me. I remember seeing her daughter. it was just different. It was like, wow, you know what I mean? Just, you know, and so the level of community that you experience while in Atmore cooking, you had a understanding from plant life. They knew what was going on. Insects, they knew what was going on. Animals, bacteria, you know, water, the environment, the trees, the plants, everything of conscious of our understanding knew what was going on. So they was in agreement because that's something that was normal. And the internet does not provide that. Also, the speed of those experiences were not as fast as the speed of the internet. You have to remember there's a speed of sound, the speed of light. And certain things can be registered compared to other things despite it existing or not. The internet is something that's immature. So anything that's immature, you cannot fully enjoy the benefits. But listening to your story, brother, that right there at my age at this very moment is very wholesome, because when you contemplate your life and you contemplate your death, there are things that doesn't matter anymore as they mattered when you were younger. There is a release of importance of a lot of things the older you become. And when you look and listen to people who may have been rulers, all bow down to the concept of simplicity and family. All those who conquered, you know, when you get to a certain age, you just want to chill with your family, your just to chill. You just want to chill. So there's a wisdom in that simplicity. There's a wisdom in simple living that the sophistication of the internet cannot provide at this moment, not near provide. So while you were explaining yourself at more, brother, I really appreciate that despite I'm fasting. So, you know, it was something, you know, that it was troublesome, but appreciated at the same time, because when you fast and you thinking about onions and, you know, and hot dogs and sandwiches and cooking, even beef, food itself, you know, it's like, oh, wow, you know, because it's something about memories. I remember when I used to eat chicken. I was a chicken eater. I was the chicken eater that ate the gristle, that ate the thin lining that sat on top of the bone, even the bone marrow. I was one of those. I was one of those. I can take a chicken wing like on a cartoon and put the entire chicken wing in my mouth. Well, at least that piece. You had the little tip drum piece and the wing. So the centerpiece of the wing, not the tip, not the drum piece, but the centerpiece. I used to be able to put the whole thing in my mouth and just push out the bones like on a cartoon. It was an art when it comes to eating chicken. I remember my friend, someone gave me a breast and they tried to tell him how he used to eat chicken. And then when they came back and saw just a few bones, not even all the bones, just a few of the bones, I was like, whoa. I said, yeah. Yeah, and that's why when people talk about I cannot be a vegetarian or concept, you know, some of us we really enjoy meat. My family are meat eaters. I remember my father used to cook a big old pot of greens, and he have smoked neck bones and pre-smoked neck bones and pre-smoked turkey necks in these greens. And he used to come home to just greens alone because the meat was already eaten by me and my nephew who was older than myself. And I remember I used to eat turkey pastrami. When I discovered turkey pastrami, brother, I used to get those thin slices because I used to watch my father get his meat from Big Bear. And he used to get the big old chunk of meat because he was born 1929. You know what I mean? He just with the big old red thing around it. So I had the same because I got the same DNA. But I'm a little more sophisticated because I'm born in later years. But I used to get pastrami, brother, and I used to get it cut into real thin slices. I would say almost 5 pounds worth. That means it was stacked. And I would get that piece and roll it up like we roll a cigar or somebody rolling a blunt and eat each one and drive. And when I made it home, it was nothing there. So I love food. I love food. I love love. I love relationship. Despite, me not having these things, but this is the after hours. And I'm telling you, I remember I used to get a whole chicken from Publix and eat the whole chicken with Hawaiian punch. That's before I got my anxiety attacks. But go ahead, brother.
No, I was just I was turning my mic on just to show that I'm smiling out loud, man. I'm laughing a little bit because I remember what it was like for me too. Before becoming a vegetarian, the same type of feeling. And then yes, those panic attacks are very real. I remember when I started taking away meat and starting to have dreams. Used to have dreams of the chickens that I ate chasing me in my sleep. Like every cow that I have ever consumed was running after me, like for reparations, bro.
Nah, I
I
something to get you,
remember
like
that,
Animal Farm.
I mean, I remember that vividly. Me and my wife Sabrina, we talk about that all the time. What it was like to go through those transitions and to do that together. But one of the things that I've come to realize is the quality of food has changed so much. That some of the things that the way you remembered it was such a good, superb quality. And that has downgraded to a point where you can go days without even thinking about eating because you know it's not as good as you remember it to be as far as the quality of certain foods.
Give me
Certain
examples.
things have to, huh?
Give examples.
Okay, one example for sure. And this is after hours. This is me showing myself now. I am a huge avid fan of desserts, all types of desserts. And I remember what honey buns used to taste like in the 90s, what honey buns used to taste like from like the Hostess Bakery. In Detroit, Michigan, you could go to this day, right now, Oakman Boulevard in Detroit, Michigan, and one of the very first Hostess bakeries is up there. It's a huge skyscraper now, but at the very bottom floors is a store. And that's where you could get all of your Twinkies, your Suzy Q's, your snowballs, everything was freshly baked and it was still warm.
Ooh.
Now, when those came, when you could buy those and they bag them up for you before they're in the wrapper and stuff, oh my gosh, man. I don't know how I made it out alive as a kid with those.
I don't know how you did either, brother. 'Cause I remember in high school, we used to take those generic honey buns, for breakfast with the chocolate milk and put it in the microwave and just want to eat. So I can imagine getting it fresh, brother. Because woo,
Oh,
yeah.
and then for laughs, just to see, I had about a year ago, I bought a Twinkie
Mm-hmm.
and was so let down by it. I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I don't even crave this stuff anymore. So many preservatives, so many things that are added to it now. It makes it so much easier to not think about it.
Well, brother, I'm gonna have to now. I agree because that's how I got off of chicken. I used to go back to see if I still desired it. So I would buy the chicken, I would chew it, but not swallow it. Because you got to do whatever it takes for your own brain to trigger you to fix your brain. And yeah, I used to do that a lot. I don't do it today, but I used to do that a lot. And I remember on from the discount cost getting. I remember when Krispy Kreme first came out, and they was so warm. And I remember taking a bite of Krispy Kreme while it was warm, and I remember that it was just crazy. And I was like, nah, I can't eat this. This is insane. But brother, I have yet to experience a good vegan pastry maker, and your tongue will be dissatisfied. Like those discounted um the bakery goods. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of us still dealing with high blood pressure and all the stuff that the average folks, because those pastries and those fake meats, brother, that's high in salt are so good. And it's like a sin. I'm telling you, the way these people cook, the way these chefs cook these vegan meals, brother, and oh my gosh. I mean, sometimes I even try to fool myself, even though I'm not quite fooling myself. But one of my companions, when I went to Dairy Queen, was cookies and cream, Oreo cookie from Dairy Queen. I used to eat the chunks, and I would just eat. That was just, a god. And I'm almost the same way with the vegan, the vegan cookies and cream. I don't eat as much, but the quality and the taste, I mean, is amazing. It's amazing. So I think it can be the discount pastries compared to the pastries that's made out of
Oh
quality,
yeah.
that you may like.
I will definitely be more mindful though, because I do not want to put you in any more affliction than you are
No,
in right now.
no. Actually, it's Let me say this. I have an extreme. I have an extreme esteem for gratitude. I love when I fully, extremely appreciate something. So while I'm fasting, brother, I'm telling you, I when I'm explaining and the memories of the taste and stuff, it is a pleasure because I am in the spirit of gratitude for these things to be even in existence that I can appreciate them. So let's go on. I mean, because like when we talk about love and companionship, let's talk about some good food while I'm fasting because I'm telling you, brother, woo, from a fast to eating some food, you talking about, and that's why with the Muslim community, when they on eat, when they fasting, when they have, woo, oh man, brother, I remember when I was with the international Muslims compared to American Muslims,
Mm.
brother, I remember they used to invite me to this Eid thing. And I used to walk downstairs because the man would be in the basement and everything was on the floor. Because in the Middle East, they have couches, they don't have legs, it's a padding. Everybody's on the
Yes,
floor.
that's right.
This plate used to be, I would say, I don't know, in length about I would say about 3 to 4 feet in length. So the circle is a big circle. I mean, you actually sleep on it. But it was full of goat meat. Um that was cooked in an Eastern way, full of different types of meat. And the international people, they know how to make some rice with the goat meat and some sauce. And they had this thin little bread that you put it in. Like if you go to an Ethiopian restaurant, you know what I'm talking about, the little thin, rubbery looking bread they always have. And they
Yes,
have
I do.
curry and, and we used to sit there and just sit in brotherhood and just eat and enjoy the food. And the women, of course, were not around. They came and brought the food down. It was in their own space. So we didn't have that type of energy, of men and women. We didn't have that in the way. So men
Yeah.
were men, and we were in our circle enjoying the food, brother. And I'm telling you, and just think of those moments. It is more to me. I think those moments eating whatever you eating, it can be hog, maw, chitlins, or whatever, having these pure, genuine moments of appreciating what you're eating. Um, oh man, it's a beautiful thing in that type of circle.
Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Let's
You know,
expound upon the one thing that I heard you say near the end of your expressive gratitude, which I am truly grateful for.
yeah,
Uh, you said that the women were not around, that they had
right,
their own space, and men had their own space,
correct.
and men were men.
Yes,
Now, that up until I'd say the last 15 years, to be fair, was not a controversial statement. And now it's become a controversial statement to the point where even the question, what is a man or what is a woman, is now a television show. There's a movie based on the one question, what is a woman? It's on Netflix. I cannot believe that we have gotten to a place in humanity where that one question brought so much controversy that it was worth a 2 hour special on Netflix, to which half of the film, no one can answer the question. So, in all of our combined experiences, our dynamics and knowledge, let's answer that question. Just
I gotta put something on it, brother. You gotta forgive me, and please, I beg you, seriously.
yeah.
When you get older, you just got less tolerance for a lot of stuff. Let me tell you something, brother. I specifically spoke about the international community. They don't have these problems. The international folks in America, they don't have these conversations. It's like when I was around certain Muslim communities, I didn't even know I was in America because we worked near each other, we prayed together. The restaurants were same people. The clothing stores, people shopped in their own clothing stores from different countries. They brought their own clothes here for the style of clothes. It was all a subculture within American culture. So it was not even, you didn't even know that stuff exists because they didn't watch that TV show. They don't have that in their world. You see what I'm saying? So that's only the uh, American concept and conversation. So they don't have there's no, even though men hold hands, there's no conversation in international communities about what is a man, what is a woman. That's only an American, European, Western concept. It's not global. It's not even a conversation. So having said that, now we can go into the question, what is a man, what is a woman, if you don't mind. But that's why my face was like, no, brother. And that's what I'm telling you. I don't know how many opportunities have you gotten to experience real international communities like I have, brother. And I'm telling you, and one of the reasons why I left Christianity when I was younger, because when I was a Christian, I remember they judged me for wearing tennis shoes in church, right? And then the women and the flirtation of women and men and the married people, they was to me pretty scummy as a young person. So as a stranger visiting my friends who were Somalian and other people, everywhere I went, there was no man hugging a woman like in church. You give a hug, none of that kind of stuff, none of that type of personal contact. Because if we want to be honest, there is some level of jealousy and stuff like that. Maybe it's unwarranted, but that's human nature. So when you in authentic Islamic countries, communities in America, it's not even like when you go to prayer, you don't even see the women. You don't even, so it's not even something that your mind have to deal with. It's like nothing of consequence. You know what I'm saying? And so I just remember a full day and a full night, because even at night I was with my friends and we stayed together. We stayed in one apartment. All the men, the boys, teenage, well, young men. And then when sun came up, we went to the masjid. We hung around the same people with the same principles, same work employment. They talk about politics in America and stuff, and they talked about TV shows, and they drink tea all day. When you're down Africans, they have, I'm telling you, they have a thing that's constantly boiling 24 hours a day, full of tea. And people leave, like when we have a corner store and the brother owns the store, the people, Africans and Muslims and people come to the store, they just, come by and we drinking tea and just talking. They leave, another group come. So it's a world within a world, and these concepts this don't even exist. It's not even a byproduct, because even when you go buy the rice and buy the food, it's international labeling, because they bring the food with them when they leave the country. And then they go to a farm. Like I remember I didn't kill the goat, but I remember I went to a farm when they killed the goat. You know what I mean? So they ain't go to Walmart and other places to even hear these conversations, because you're not going to go on a farm. Somebody was a woman around these communities. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, brother, it was, and that's why it's so important to have a community. When you have a real community, you're not like around these Jewish community, the elementary school, same people, same culture. The people's home, same culture. They're your neighbor, physical neighbor too, not somebody way off somewhere. Y'all driving the same cars together. Y'all go shopping together. Y'all buy clothes together. Y'all go to the prayer room together. Everywhere, every facet. Even I remember going to the grocery store with some of the brothers. I remember when the brother took my hand. I was an adult, he was an adult, and we went to Kroger's. We was in our own little world, and he was talking to me some wisdom. And everybody, matter of fact, when you're around Somali Africans, you wear this dress. I got one over here, but you put it on around your waist and you wrap it around and you sleep in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's the culture. But no, brother, you got billions of people. That's not even, I mean, they probably don't even know it exists. Tell you the truth, people talking about what is a man, what is a woman. To be honest. Because when you're in these communities, brother, really authentic community, like I said, I'm just thinking right now. I'm honestly reflecting. And I remember when I was in these communities that even how we paid our bills and made money, it was Islamic. It was not, like I said, you can be in a store or a mall, but you with their community, therefore you still in that bubble, despite being around other people. And I just remember, it wasn't a converse, it was not even a inkling of somebody sleeping with somebody's girlfriend or somebody or wife. Even like I remember when I was near Ohio State with my friends who are Ethiopian and Eritrean and Somalian, and everybody extremely attractive. And I remember we was all just sitting there, because when you're young, everybody basically live with each other. And their community, they were pre-married, but they had relationships. And I remember we was around each other. Even when we used to go to the club, it was all Ethiopian Somalians, and it was the same culture. It was, we listen to Bob Marley all day and all night, but I don't even remember flirting. I don't remember even side eye of that type of stuff, because their social norms is not, I don't remember that in those circles. It's something that was just understood with the women and even the children in those type of cultures. The children even know their place. It's not even, and they were more respectable when you were around those cultures. You don't have knucklehead children around. I just thought, because I'm thinking right now, and I'm going because even through prayer time, you don't have knuckleheaded children. You don't. It doesn't exist. Even in modern times, I don't recall those things, brother. You gotta cut me off. Can't be long-winded, brother. You gotta
I'm loving this. I'm loving the breeze. I'm loving it because I'm catching things out of this breeze. Because there are places that I've yet to have graced. and that's a share that I'm enjoying because I'm learning from places that you've been.
Yeah, you have the Unitarian experience. I would say the Unitarian experience is like a 0.5 compared to international communities. Even when I was with the Indians from India and used to go to their temples, I don't know why I somehow be in these. Somehow I always was allowed inside these communities where other blacks were not allowed. To be honest, even the Ismailis, you ain't anybody Ismailis, but I end up in the middle, invited, and I'm reflecting at this very moment. I do not remember any American thing. I don't remember even women rebelling, even with their mouths, when the men were around. Maybe when a couple were by themselves, but when the men were around communing amongst themselves, because I heard through when I was in a relationship with a person, I heard through them how the wife may be complaining about a particular issue, but it was among the women. But the men, because the men they talk all day, like he need to work more, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Real minimum issues, not no stuff with the Americans. I do not remember that at all. And that's why so many people in the 90s were flocking to Islam, not necessarily a black version of Islam, but the Sunni, because the community of brotherhood. And I'm telling you, brother, even when I was a complete stranger, nothing about Islam, I would be in a car with them. It'd be 8 of us in a small car. We're going to someone's house, maybe in Minnesota somewhere. I would be treated the same. It was not even a flick of discrimination or something. I was a brother. Everything that they got, I got demanded. So that's why I first became Muslim from a Christian, because every Christian home and stuff, it was just not. There was the culture was not good. But I'm telling you, and I appreciated that concept, because in the black community we didn't have that concept. And that's why, like, when I had certain friends I grew up with, when we lived near each other, he had a key to my apartment, I had a key to his apartment. He had a key to my car, I had keys to his car, because just in case the police stop, you know what I mean, we get arrested, they have access, and even with their families and stuff, remember I told you, we had it was nonverbal. If their wife or girlfriend had to be picked up by me, it was nonverbal. We didn't have eye contact, because in Islamic community, you don't have eye contact with a woman. It's not your wife. Understood. You didn't have nobody's daughter on your knee. Even the father don't. So she automatically went to the back seat. It was not looking through the rear view mirror to see if she looking. All that foolish. Well, I would not say all that stuff that's different culturally that causes problems. You see what I'm saying? Because you got these thoughts in your mind that can cause problems. You can create fantasies and,
Yeah.
mess your own relationship over fantasies. So I don't remember that kind of stuff, brother. Not at all. Not from those communities. No matter where I went, no matter what year, no matter what time, it was even when I was in Arizona, I went to the Coptic church, became a cool brother with them. Everybody who bring their culture with them from their country, and if they allow you in, you will definitely know how it feels to be a human. And that's why so many people, again, when they get into these cultures, they maintain. And matter of fact, and I remember back in the 90s, they used to make fun of Black Americans. They were like, why are you speaking with an Arab accent? Accent. You know what I'm saying? You became Muslim, now you got an accent of an Arab. Because you so much. But I remember people used to mock the Muslims in the 90s because the Black Americans, they have the Arab accent, English accent, But appreciation, man. And I remember, like I said, just with the relationship, like I said, it was, I don't know, like I said, you had circumstances and you had things of that nature, but it wasn't. Let me see. Because they have beautiful daughters. I mean, everybody, when you're around Somalians and Ethiopians and, people from other countries, they are extremely beautiful. The olive skin tone, the hair, the smell, the scent, the body. I mean, they are extremely attractive. Extremely attractive with the black eyes. You know how the
The
blackness
smoky
are
eye.
real,
Yeah.
are real big. Like Lisa Lopez. You know how like my
Yeah.
blackness is a small circle, right? But they got the
Yeah.
real big black. They got more black than white. Those,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just brown skin with the brown long hair. I mean, it's beautiful, but no, around the brothers, man, around prayer, and and that's why I believe if you really live your religion, you don't have these things. You don't have these subject with as a man with. It's something that won't even come up. I mean, because even when I was studying with the Jews, I mean, you don't when you go to their grocery store, the people that's in the grocery store listening to religious stuff. So they don't got picked. There's no outside influences. Like I remember going to these stores and everything represented the religion. Their religion didn't separate from the culture. So that's what I'm saying. So it's like because I haven't reflected over these things in years. So that's why I'm really deep in it now at this very moment. Because I used to think about this, but I haven't thought about this probably over 20 years. So I'm really into it right now, because maybe that's something that need to happen with me personally, because it's so many people that really wanted me to part of their community because who I was. Because and brother, and that's why I love the burning bush, because if you never had these experiences in these cultures, you wouldn't necessarily know how it feels to be around people without any breaks. Like you can go to a church and it can be good one day, then wicked the next day. You understand what I'm saying? But we around these communities, like everywhere I went, the men went in their space and women went in their space. Every time, not somebody peeping around. It was no breaks in that line. No breaks. So when you go to American cultural things, you have moments, moments of time, you know, yeah, brother. And that's why when America go away, these cultures will exist because what it represents. I'm serious. These brothers, man, I remember, like I said, this being an average, and they don't care about the things we care about. I remember when we was in the corner store. And like I said, randomly, brothers come by, he would drink a few coffees, talk about football, soccer, and have a conversation and leave, and the whole, what I'm saying? And it goes on day in and day out, year in and year out. And oh man, you got that sandwich over there? Yeah. Because in Islam and other countries, they literally practice if you got a bowl of soup, give your brother half the soup. It's not even a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not even a second thought. So these people that Christianity talk about, these other cultures actually do it. So he just coming in, got on flip flops. He may be driving a taxi, taking a break for a minute from driving a taxi. Want to get some coffee, have a conversation, and sometimes he may not even go back to work. He got to go home to his wife, and then he go home and go sleep, wake up for the next day around the brothers. And that's why if you're around African international communities, the men are always around each other. Even if they're not making money, they having conversations and they having their cultural experiences, tea and some good food. And there's no break in that timeline like American cultures. Nothing like it, brother.
I'm amazed, and it sets in me a blueprint. It sets in me a blueprint to travel, to set money aside, to be able to travel, just to see things like that with my own eyes exist in that way.
I'm gonna say this, brother. You don't even have to travel for 90 days or more. Go to your local masjid do your 5 prayers with the masjid, and meet some families at the masjid, and do an Eid and fast with them. Just live the culture, and you will have the same experience right there in the town that you live in, because everybody's there. You know, yeah, you you will like it. You will. I think you will enjoy the experience. Um, because one thing that I do notice, um, it all depends where you want to go. And that's why I ask a person, where you want to go. There's already a path that's there, and it may be near and not far. And like I said, those experiences was in Ohio and in other little cities. And so I didn't have to go far. I just put myself into the local culture who was international, you know, um, and from a religious perspective. So I came as a religious practitioner of that religion. And if you like, even in Judaism, if you go to the local synagogue and say you want to convert to Judaism and be part of the community, just be part of the community. You will see, you will be right there in that same city, but don't know nothing what's going on, because the music that you listen to is the same, the TV shows, the books you read, and the conversation, even the food you eat, everything to sustain yourself as a human being is a part of that. And it's a blessing to, to be part of a community like that, brother. It's real nice. So just choose a community, find it locally that's non-Christian. And that's why, I really don't look at Christianity as a whole in a particular way, because Christianity itself is the most ignorant of the religions of Abraham. And due to their ignorance, they suffer because they're ignorant. And that's why when you go to the Jewish community who live the Jewish life, they don't talk about what is a man's woman. When you go to a Muslim community, it's not even, it's like, or the Jewish community, they may have a little different, but if you notice, their women don't mingle with the men like that as well. When you go to any serious and consistent culture, you may be introduced, like, say for instance, if you see a woman, um she may introduce you to the community, but then after that you be with the brothers. So you don't have these secret thoughts and contemplations and things that humans do. And then once you're part of culture, you're just consumed by that. You don't have these things. Yes, you have infatuations by some of the sisters, but I'm gonna give you an example. I remember I was with the Kenyans and I was dancing. I'm an American dancer, so I know how to move my body. And I remember the Kenyan women was like, he know how to move his body. But it was not a nasty sexual type of energy. It was like an innocent type of fun. And it was wild because even the royalty was there. The royalty of Kenya was living like regular people there. But I do remember that when I was dancing, and I remember when I saw one, she was extremely beautiful. Her body was amazing. I was like, y'all got women built like that too? Because I was naive and young at the time. I'm honest, you know what I'm saying? But I remember she had an American black woman's body from my limited perspective at the time, and I was shocked. And she had brown, she was made out. But she wasn't wrong. She wasn't, she was not like an American, not that American vibe energy, you know,
Yeah.
energy. They don't
Yeah.
have a lot of women, and a lot of women from Africa, different countries. They don't have that American. It's like when you're around those type of women, um, there's a there's an innocence. There's a level of certain boundaries you already know. You know what I'm saying? You're dealing with African women that American women a lot American women don't have in their culture, their genetic culture. There's a different level of cleanliness when you deal with a lot of African women. Um, when it comes to energy, because they can truly be your friend without contemplating some secret stuff behind. You see what I'm saying? I do remember. Now I'm talking about energy wise, brother. You gotta come in because you know what I'm saying. You just listen. I'm really thinking about breaking my fast. You know me. That's why I'm all over the place. And my body heats up, and you know.
I'm taking it all in because, quite honestly, it's just amazing to know that there exists in that way. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I have some experience with the Unitarian Universalist Church because they were all different cultures, but all of them were victims of church hurt from their culture. These were all where all of the misfit toys went to go play. Okay. You would have the beaten up Baptists, the recovering Catholics, you would have the people that were, jumped out of Judaism and their family didn't approve of them because of their lifestyle and all of these things. And they would all just find their way into this melting pot of acceptance. And these were places where biblical scripture was, second place to the fellowship. So it was all about fellowship. And in the fellowship, I would learn that there are certain people that were, worship was supposed to be Catholic. They would go from Catholic to Judaism to uh, Egyptology to pagans, and they would tell us of all of their journeys and all of the places that they have visited, all the places they traveled abroad throughout trying to find themselves. People who, were whiter than pieces of paper that could tell me more about Kemet than I ever even thought I knew. Because they were doing the work, they were reading, they were researching, they actually put their feet on the ground in Cairo and places like that was the type of experience that I had, but it was always thought of that I had to experience that by going abroad like they did. But what you're expressing is that it's hidden in plain sight from my own mind because I had not delved into those cultures within the vicinity that I am presently residing, because it is existent there. So it's opening my eyes to a whole new world of things. And I am completely enamored by it. Absolutely, I'm blown away by it. And it already has me jotting down certain places that I am wanting to go to venture to go to for worship, because I had not had an experience of fellowship since 6 months before the coronavirus hit the States. It's been years. And even with going to certain links to do remote preaching, it's remote. You're not in front of a congregation. It's a totally different experience. But yeah, I mean, I'm getting so much from you. Unfortunately, though, I am going to have to cut things short tonight. I was thinking I was going to be able to stay on for as long as up to 12 o'clock to help you break your fast. However, I am being called to by my wife to do some things, but I will say this: I think that the most that we've received in people who have watched the build have come from the last 2 weeks in these after hours. It's so much more enriching to show all of these different dimensions of ourselves here. And I am definitely seeing in the next few months more people that are engaging in the build than even its inception, that really want to engage in having that community be brought forth. So that's going to be something to see more of those boxes down here and having those bricks along this wall and this journey. So it's gonna be an amazing thing to see that. And to have this space, this sacred space, to truly be ourselves in all the dimensions of ourselves is truly a blessing. Truly a blessing. But unfortunately, I have to cut it short tonight. But more than anything, those who are watching, if you have watched this far, just know that we wish you many blessings, and that any and everything that has been brought here into this circle, again, not with any intent of harm or to demean anyone, it's just our own knowledge, and we're still seeking the wisdom and understanding through these builds, but just being thankful for your time, which is precious to us. Take care.